Hey, you guys, welcome to day 22 of Hot Topics and Cool Drinks. This event is created exclusively for adults 50 and over, especially for those of us who are corporate executives, past or present, entrepreneurs, educators, and family stewards, parts of households that have invested in private education, people who understand that values, not trends, are what guide families. And each evening, we gather here to center ourselves in clarity and conversation. I'm your host, Antoinette Wolf, a former corporate executive turned entrepreneur, philanthropist, licensed real estate agent, writer, and mother. Tonight, we're focused on what it means to separate careless choices from international and intentional legacy. We'll discuss how cyberbullying has escalated into a nationwide crisis and why legacy-driven organizations like the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative matter, and how we as executive parents, are transitioning from corporate America into our own private firms and businesses, teaching our children to see the difference between what's real and what's not in both life and in business. Now, before I start with the poem from one of my books, She Shines Anyway, 76 Poems for the Woman Who Refuses to Dim Her Light, let me introduce tonight's drink. This is tonight's drink. It's called Reed's Root Beer. It's called, I like this because on the back it says Soda Smarter, but that's not what I like about it. I love the flavor. It's delicious. If you're a root beer or licorice fan, you're going to love this. You're going to be so delighted that there's something less sweet, a lot more healthy out there. Let me share with you some of the ingredients that we have in here. We have chicory root. We have ginger. We have lime and lemon juice, turmeric, black pepper, mushroom extract, and stevia. Stevia. Anyway, let's have a toast to tonight, okay? Tonight. This is a really nice drink. It's nice and smooth, you know. Now I'm going to share with you, there's not going to be that burp. You know how root beer gives you that little belch? That's not there. But it's really nice. I like it. It has the sparkling water. It's just not as strong. Okay? I like it. I give it a 7.5, 8. Now let's go ahead into this book here. She Shines Anyway, 76 Poems for the Woman That Refuses to Dim Her Light. You can find this book on Amazon.com or my website, bewellnesscenter.shop. And let's get into it. This is, I'd rather be misunderstood than misused. I don't owe anyone access, especially the ones who only show up when they want something. Let them call me cold, let them call me distant, let them spin stories to soothe their guilt. Because the version of me that stayed too long, explained too much, bent too far, she retired. I don't clarify lies anymore. I don't plead with people to see my heart. If the cost of being misunderstood is being drained, used, or controlled, I'll pass. I'd rather be misunderstood than misused ever again. Okay? And that poem is for a woman who refuses to dim her light because, you know, we all need little reminders. I love this book because this is something for more of an independent lady that just wants to be left alone, you know, wants to be left alone and handle her business. And you can read one in the morning and at night to remind you, give you that little nugget to just keep going, do your thing, you shining. You're shining beautifully. Okay? So the featured book of the night, you guys, let's pivot a little bit into the featured book of the night. The featured book of the night is called Careless People by Sarah Wyn Williams. And Sarah Wyn Williams is a New Zealand diplomat who became head of global public policy at Meta, Facebook, during the company's rise to global dominance. Her memoir, Careless People, opens in 2009 when she left behind her career at the United Nations. This is where she was working on environmental policy and stepped into Silicon Valley at a time when Facebook promised to change the world. The book captures the duality of ambition, the thrill of believing that you're part of something transformative, and the sobering reality of how corporate decisions, sometimes careless, often unchecked, reshape entire societies. Wyn Williams describes the excitement of a young professional who wanted to innovate, but also the frustration of encountering structures resistant to accountability. This isn't just her story. It's a warning and a guide for us as corporate executive parents. It's a reminder that organizations might rise and fall in public favor, but the values we instill in our children about integrity, accountability, and legacy will last. Now, I'm going to share with you, this is another book that I don't carry in our library at BeWellnessCenter.shop, but I purchased my copy at Barnes & Nobles, and you can get yours there too. Okay, so let's go ahead and quickly go into the hot topic of the night. Okay, something we've been definitely talking about almost every single night is cyberbullying. Bullying and legacy work is the topic of the night. Cyberbullying is no longer an isolated issue, as I've said many times. It is in fact a nationwide crisis, and it's being addressed on campuses everywhere, including my own campus. Now, while I speak often about this issue, I want to be clear. Personally, folks like the folks that own Meta, for example, Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan, I don't believe these guys are personally responsible. What I do believe is that many influencers using tools like artificial intelligence to hide their identity have fueled this rise in cruelty and social chaos online. And here's where our role comes in. As executive parents, our children must understand the difference between what is fabricated and what is true, between careless choices and intentional legacy. No matter what the public throws at us, our kids need to see clearly where our values actually stand. And that's why tonight I actually want to spotlight CZI, which is the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. This is something that was actually founded in 2015 by Dr. Priscilla Chan. She's a pediatrician, a philanthropist, and her husband, Mark Zuckerberg, also is the co-founder. CZI is dedicated to advancing science, improving education, and reforming the social justice system. Okay? In education, they've invested in personalized learning platforms and teacher tools to help students succeed nationwide. In science, they fund biomedical research where the ambitious goal of curing, preventing, or managing can come to an end by 2100. In justice and in opportunity, they back organizations working on housing equity, criminal justice reform, and immigrant rights. Priscilla Chan herself is a Harvard-trained physician, a first-generational college graduate, and a woman who has dedicated her career in philanthropy to protecting children, families, and vulnerable communities. Personally, I support CZI because their work shows that what legacy-driven impact looks like. And here's the truth. That's what we want and what we focus on as corporate executive parents, making sure our legacies are strong. Legacy is not just about building wealth that lasts or creating stability for our children. It's also about building reputation through philanthropy. A true legacy means giving back as much as you gain, if not more. And that's what I like about them, is that they're doing it. And what's interesting is that, on one end, you have people tying a lot of the cyberbullying to the social media platforms, and then behind closed doors, you don't even realize that a lot of these folks are actually making huge differences and impacts on our planet, and that's why, again, we have to teach our kids most things when you look at them, it's literally a business. It's literally a business, okay? But there's life beyond business. It's legacy. How do you want your legacy to be remembered? Okay? Now, I'm going to pivot into the menopause minute. I feel bad because there was one night this week that I had forgot to do it. So, let me go ahead and get into that to make sure I don't forget. Tonight's wellness reminder is about the power of consistency. Now, for women over 50, consistency with hydration, stretching, and balanced nutrition reduces hot flashes, stabilizes energy, and sharpens focus. Now, even though we're talking about menopause, I do want to say this. For men, maintaining routines, strengthening heart health, reduce stress, and support sleep are equally essential. The benefits are clear. When your body is balanced, your mind is sharper. And when your mind is sharper, you can lead with clarity instead of reaction. Thriving in this stage of life means solidifying legacy with strength, not fatigue. Okay? You guys ready to go into the business corner for a few moments? Let's do that. Let's go into the business corner. Tonight, we're going to shift into business. I want to connect back with one of the books that I had featured earlier in the week. It was called Rule Number 1 by Phil Town. That book laid out 4 principles for investing, meaning moat, meaning management, and margin of safety. And it's a foundation that we can use not only for our personal investments, but also for the way we build our private firms and benefit packages. When we look at the market, these are the companies worth paying close attention to, not because they're hype, but because they are aligned with Rule Number 1 principles and represent strength for decades. So some of these that we were talking about watching, we're going to recap on, okay? Remember, we were talking about watching stocks like Apple, Amazon, things like that, before actually going into invest. So I'm going to recap on some of them. Do you guys remember we talked about Meta? Let me write these tickers down for you guys. You want to watch these. Meta. M-E-T-A is the ticker. Then we have Adobe. Now here's the thing. If you're not familiar with Meta, Meta is a platform with global scale and digital advertising dominance, showing how influence drives business. Then you have Adobe, which is, hold on a second. That seems a little smeary. Okay. A-D-B-E. Make sure you're writing this down. The gold standard in creative software. We're an unbearable moat in design and publishing. Then we have Netflix. Netflix, remember when we were talking about how Reed Hastings turned Netflix into something amazing by simply paying attention to the analytics that he was able to get his hands on through artificial intelligence? And that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. That's what we want for our private companies. We want to be able to make smart choices, see something smart, and actually make a difference. You know? Netflix. NFLX. Then we have NVIDIA. NVIDIA is the backbone of AI and advanced computing, driving the future of innovation. This is the ticker. Then you have Microsoft, okay? Microsoft, that's the anchor of enterprise and cloud computing with unmatched integration in both business and personal life. Let me use this. MSFT. Are you guys writing this down? So let me recap with you guys really quickly. So you have we have here, we have Meta, Adobe, Netflix, Nvidia, and Microsoft. These are not just stocks that we want to simply watch. These are stocks that if we're able to go ahead and invest in, because not only are they the hype and the rage, but they're consistently growing. They're consistent. They're still growing every day. They're still creating. They're still very innovative. So we want to do that. As executive parents transitioning out of corporate America, these are not just stocks to invest in personally. They're also the kind of equity that we can consider offering to top hires in our private firms. When we build competitive packages that include healthcare, retirement, and exposure to proven companies like Meta, Adobe, Netflix, Nvidia, and Microsoft, we show our recruits that they're part of something enduring. And that's the real lesson from rule number 1. You don't gamble, you don't chase hype, you invest in what you and your children can understand. Companies with long-term moats that will still be standing 20 years from now. Now for us, it's not just about wealth. It's about teaching legacy by example, okay? Yeah, so that's my tea for tonight. Let me go ahead and close, if that's okay with you guys. I'm going to close with a final poem from my book, She Shines Anyway, 76 Poems for the Woman That Refuses to Dim Her Light. The last poem of the evening is called The Softest Voice is Still a No. I don't raise my voice to be heard, I raise my standards. And when I say no, I mean it the first time. Some think softness is surrender. They make mistake calm for uncertainty, but my silence is rooted in certainty, not fear. I've learned that real power doesn't need to shout. A whisper with conviction is louder than any scream with confusion. I don't need to explain. I don't need to defend. I don't need to repeat myself. The softest voice is still a no, and my no is sacred. Okay. And I think that as women, we have to remember that. And this is not just for women. So guys, forgive me. I know tonight I've been referencing as girls a lot, but I just wanted to be clear. Yeah, it's just so important that we never hesitate to feel bad about saying the word no. No means no, and that's just the bottom line. Absolutely no. Okay. So yeah, that's it. That's all I have for tonight. I want you guys to catch the replay on Instagram at Wolf Vibrations and YouTube. Sign up for the newsletter that's called The Second Act Executive, and you can sign up at bewellnesscenter.shop. All right. And that's it. Come back to, not tomorrow because it's the weekend. Come back on Monday. We're going to finish up, okay? We're going to finish up. Monday's going to be Labor Day too. So enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you Monday. Bye.